This video is edited to shorten watch time by removing sidebars, procedural evidence handling, and long pauses. Witness testimony remains intact, with minor trims to hesitation words and stutters. Audio is enhanced from the broadcasted court feed, but some originally inaudible dialogue may still be unclear.
Please state your name for the record and spell it.
Kristy, Raddatz-Ortiz, Kristy-Raddatz-Ortiz.
Raddatz-Ortiz, have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes,
How many times?
twice.
Did you know somebody named Rosalio Gutierrez?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was Rosalio Gutierrez to you?
He was a former partner, and he and I have a 14-year-old son together.
That 14-year-old son back in May of 2020, would he have been 11?
Yes.
When did you first meet Mr. Gutierrez, best you can remember?
Around 2001.
What year, in general, was your son born, your joint son?
2008.
Obviously, you guys broke up, fair to say?
Yes.
After the two of you stopped your romantic relationship, did Mr. Gutierrez remain in your son's life?
Yes, most definitely.
Would you have considered him to be an involved parent?
Very involved.
I'm assuming as your son got older, he and his father had interests in common, things they liked to do together.
Very much so.
What kind of things did they like to do together? What were their in common interests?
One of them was baseball, but they both loved the outdoors and just learning together, learning anything.
You talked about baseball. Was that a lifelong passion for Rosalio?
It was.
Was he happy when your son also picked up that same kind of passion for the game?
Yeah.
What kind of things revolving around baseball would they do together?
They'd go out in the yard and play catch together. They would go to baseball games when they could. They would watch the World League, Little League World Series and that on TV. They would do practices. He was always there for practice. He was always there for his games. They would go beyond. They'd go early, stay late, those types of things.
Your son's actually pretty good at baseball, from what I hear. Is
He
that
is,
accurate?
yeah.
And so was he both back in 2020 on a local Little League team, but also on some traveling teams?
He was on a local Little League team, I think, Kiwanis, and was getting ready to start the traveling team.
Did Rosalio take on a coaching role for that Little League baseball team?
He did.
And was that something that Rosalio was excited about?
Yes, very excited.
Had he been looking forward to being an official coach?
You can object as far as hearsay and speculation as to what Mr. Gutierrez was or was not looking forward to. And if there's going to be questioning on it, there needs to be better foundation.
I think that's a fair observation.
Mr. Raddatz-Ortiz, did you have occasion to observe Mr. Gutierrez during these practices and these games of your son while being present?
Yes.
And were you able to, based on your observations of how he was acting and what he was doing at these different practices and games, develop an opinion about what you would characterize his behavior like?
Yes.
And based on your observations of Rosalio at these practices and games that you've described, how would you describe what you observed to be his feelings regarding being involved in your son's baseball career?
Enthused.
Obviously, you knew that your son was in the Little League team?
Yes.
As part of signing him up, was there also a sign-up for coaches?
Yes.
For the season for 2020, based on your knowledge, was Rosalio Gutierrez set to be a coach of your son's Little League team?
Yes, he was.
And was that slightly different than in years prior, where he had been more of a volunteer, if you know?
Yes.
So he was actually going to be an official on-field coach. Fair to say, in knowing Mr. Gutierrez, that he didn't have a ton of money.
Yeah.
But was baseball something that he, for your son, sought to spend whatever money he did have on?
Yes, he would.
And how did he do that?
You can object as far as speculation and relevance.
If I may.
The question actually doesn't seem like it's seeking information that will be outside of her personal knowledge. And she tells me it's going to be a brief examination, so I'm going to take her at her word. So,
and Judge, when has baseball ever not been relevant?
Well, who can argue with that? So go ahead.
So would Rosalio spend what money he did have on things like baseball for your son?
When he could, yeah.
Would that involve things like extra hitting lessons, coaching lessons, things like that?
Yeah.
At this time, back in May of 2020, who did your son primarily live with?
He lived with me.
And distance-wise, how far approximately was your residence at that time from Mr. Gutierrez's residence?
About a 3-minute car drive, so very close.
And so I know that this was COVID time back in May of 2020, but around this time frame, how often was your son seeing his father?
Probably at least 3 to 4 times a week, because we would switch back and forth with who had him during virtual school.
Prior to the world ending in COVID in 2020, was your son's actual school bus pickup stop outside of Mr. Gutierrez's residence?
Yes, it was.
And so on days when you would have your son and you would bring him to the bus stop, would he occasionally see his father then as well?
Yes, we would.
Would you consider your custody arrangement to be casual in terms of where your son would be staying on any given day?
Very casual. Sometimes it changed at the last minute.
At this point in May of 2020, did your son have his own cell phone?
Yes, he did.
Was that a way he would communicate with Mr. Gutierrez when he wasn't with him?
Yes, all the time.
How would you describe the frequency of that communication when you had your son with you and he would be reaching out to his father?
Probably at least once a day, if not multiple times a day.
So they talked a lot?
Yes, whether it was text or talk.
Jack, as far as hearsay,
Yeah, proof.
Hello.
Now, directing your attention to May 15th and May 16th of 2020, for that weekend leading up to Sunday night, the 17th, where was your son staying for those days?
He was with his father.
Was that unusual?
No.
Besides your son and Rosalio, were you aware of anyone else was also with them for those couple of days leading up to the night of the 17th?
His younger sister, Ava.
Okay. I'm just going to show you a picture of what's been marked as State's Exhibit 55. Can you just tell me if you recognize the people in this picture?
Yes.
And just for brevity's sake, would this be Mr. Gutierrez,
Yes.
your son, and his other daughter?
Yes.
Judge, I would move State's Exhibit 55 into evidence and ask to publish it to the jury, not on the electronics, given the identities of the children that we would broadcast.
Any objection?
no.
We've talked a lot about how close your son was with his father. After the breakup of your relationship, did you and Mr. Gutierrez remain close?
We did.
Would you have considered him to be a good friend of yours in May of 2020?
Yes.
When you would exchange your son on those different days, would you often have conversations with each other?
Yes.
Did you keep in touch with each other in your lives?
Yes, we did.
Direct your attention to May 17th in the hours close to 8 p.m. Do you recall being at your house roughly a little before 8 p.m. that day?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recall happening that day regarding your son and Mr. Gutierrez?
I recall my son being dropped off by his dad. I didn't see him drop him off, but I recall him dropping him off. He came in and said, "Hey, Mom, I'm home," and brought his things to his room, and we got ready for the next day. My fiance, who was in the driveway, saw him drop him off, and they waved at each other, and that was that.
Since May 17th of 2020, have you heard from Rosalio Gutierrez at all?
Not at all.
To the best of your knowledge, obviously in raising your son, has your son heard from Mr. Gutierrez at all?
No.
Have there been any further contacts from Mr. Gutierrez to your son's phone since May 17th of 2020?
No.
Was Mr. Gutierrez the type of person that would have just disappeared from his son's life?
No, he wasn't.
And how do you know that?
Because I don't think there's anything in this world that could separate him from his son and his daughter. There's just nothing I could imagine that would... He loved his kids. That they were his world.
Obviously, we're talking about almost 3 years ago now. So Mr. Gutierrez would have missed countless birthdays,
Yes.
first days of school,
Yep.
sporting events,
Mm-hmm.
important school events.
Yeah.
Do you believe that's something Mr. Gutierrez would have voluntarily ever did?
Never. No.
Question from May 17th. Do you know roughly what time your son was dropped off on May 17th?
It was somewhere between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. I think it was between it was a little closer to 8, maybe 7:40, something like that. I don't remember the exact time, but yeah, between 7:30 and 8 p.m.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you remember speaking with officers in this case? I believe it was one officer, Officer Ruha.
Yes,
You had explained to him what had happened when your son was dropped off on May 17th, 2020, correct?
yes,
And you had information that Mr. Gutierrez was going to be going to Eileen Knowles' house to check on her sink after dropping off your son, correct?
I don't recall.
If I were to show you a copy of your written statement, would that help refresh your memory? Did that help refresh your recollection?
I'm still reading it.
Oh, sure.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Repeat your question, please.
So, did you receive information that Mr. Gutierrez was heading over to Eileen Knowles' house to check on her sink?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This calls for hearsay. It's very specific in statement that is coming in through a third-party witness.
Sure, I'm using it not for the truth of the matter asserted, but rather effect on the listener for other reasons than of what this witness's perception of was of what Mr. Gutierrez could have possibly been going to do.
Your Honor,
Which
The effect on the listener is not an exception to the hearsay rule.
Yes.
It is?
present sense impression.
Oh,
Effective, sorry.
I've never heard that particular exception expressed that way. I'm not saying you're wrong. I've just never heard it said that way. And that is the least favorite of all of the exceptions to the hearsay rule.
Your Honor, if I may be heard on this,
Why not?
the answer calls for what a third party told her at some point, supposedly, but then also this isn't a present sense impression because it's days later that allegedly she's telling it to law enforcement. So it's level of hearsay. It's not appropriate to come into evidence given exactly what's written in the statement. And also, it clearly is for the truth of the matter asserted, otherwise she'd be speculating on.
Well, she said it wasn't for the matter asserted. It was for the effect on the listener, but I didn't buy that.
Well, that's fine.
That's almost always irrelevant.
Well, I'll rephrase it. You had a guess of where Mr. Gutierrez was going on May 17th, 2020, correct?
Objection, it calls for hearsay to answer her speculative guess on where he may have been going.
Well, it actually, I think this question is probably okay, but it's going to be the end of the line.
Yeah, that's fine. If you need to look at your written statement again.
Well, wait a minute.
Right.
That's kind of hearsay-ish.
I'll rephrase it. I'll just ask it straight up. Did you think that Mr. Gutierrez might have had a date that night and didn't want to tell your son?
No.
Looking at a sink is
No, ma'am. Thank you. Go on.
Okay, I'll move on.
Yes, please.
Your Honor, I'd ask that that be struck from the record as argumentative and just inappropriate.
Well, I don't know if I'd embrace those reasons, but you could disregard, what response there was to the question. Go ahead.
You had knowledge that Mr. Gutierrez started dating a woman with the Facebook name of Sadie Jane, correct?
Not until after we realized he was missing.
Did you ever meet Sadie Jane prior to May 17th, 2020?
If I didn't know of her, then no, I did not. No.
And Mr. Gutierrez, you said you had spoke with him on a regular basis, correct?
Yes.
And he never mentioned her to you?
No, he did not.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Any questions?
Nothing based on that.
You can step down, ma'am.
As promised, Judge.
Very well done.